only want to talk about my part in this. And I got injured in high school, and the doctor gave me prescriptions. From that point on, it's been a battle for me. Opiates have been a battle for me. Opiates, opioids, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And all of them. Just about all opiates and opioids, just about. So from that point on, by taking the pills they gave me, kind of conditioned my body in a way, and my brain and my whole system, kind of conditioned my whole system in a way that, in order for me to, like I didn't realize that they were, I didn't know that they were addictive. Like, genuinely did not know that the pills that the doctor gave me, I know fucking heroin is addictive, don't get me wrong, but I genuinely didn't know that the pills I was getting was like a form of not generic, but synthetic heroin. And so I got on them, I was taking them, I got another some refills, whatever, and from that point on, my back hurted. The way my cravings came in, the way my addictive cravings came in, was that my back started to hurt first. Like, I didn't recognize the actual craving symptoms because I didn't know what to look for. So I didn't realize that the burning in my stomach and the night sweats, I didn't realize that was actually dope sick. So I just kind of ignored it. It didn't even like enter my consideration, you know what I mean? It just didn't enter my consideration. I didn't think about it. It was just, I don't know, I thought I ate something bad or something like that. I thought I had, or I thought I was hungry. That's what, for a long time, I thought I was just hungry. Because my stomach hurt. So anyway, my back started to hurt, and that would be that would be the thing that called it to my attention for me to look for pills, to seek out pills. People run a red light and then smile at you with that kind of smile. That's that shit right there. That's that shit right there that fucking gets under my skin a little bit, but what am I gonna do? Anyway. So I got hooked on these pills. Over the years, I found how to find, I found, seeking them, I found where to find them. And one day I was going to where I was going to get them. And I was sweating, and my stomach hurt, and my nose was running. And it was early. Usually you couldn't get what I was looking for, which was the original OC 80s. You couldn't get those until in the afternoon. But it was a morning time, and I was like, I don't feel good, I gotta get to work and all this other shit. Oh no, I didn't have work. It was a Saturday, as a matter of fact. I just couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. I figured the night before, I'll be fine, I'll be all right. But when I woke up in the morning, or when I got up in the morning after having night sweats, I was like, fuck this, I'm going down and find them to get what I need. Not even thinking, not even considering that the reason I felt the way I felt was because it was a direct result of the withdrawal symptoms. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I got down there, and the dude was like, "What's up? You need some Chiva?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't fuck with heroin." He was like, "Well, what are you doing down here?" And I told him, I was like, "I'm trying to get some OCs." He was like, "Oh, you dope sick, huh?" And I was like, "Nah, what the fuck are you talking about? I told you I don't fuck with heroin. I don't fuck with that shit." He was like, "You said you fuck with OCs." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." He said, "Well, what do you think that is?" And that was a realization for me. He was like, "All that is synthetic heroin. That's it. No more, no less." And I was like, "God damn." He said, "Heroin is the original painkiller. Heroin is what morphine is derived from opium. Opium refined into heroin. Opium refines into morphine too. And this other shit is just a synthetic version of it. I was like, God damn. And he was like, I was like, well, shit, I don't fuck with heroin though. Like, I'm not. He was like, well, check this out. How do you do the OCs? How much do you do? And I was like, shit, 3, 4, maybe 5 a day sometimes. And he was like, oh, he laughed like, oh, you're fucked. Basically, like, you're fucked. He's like, check this out. I'm gonna give you this. And he gave me, I don't know if it was a dime or a 20 of some hop. And he was like, how do you do it? I said, well, either I snort them or I... Basically, at that point, I was snorting them. I had injected them a few times. That's crazy, like being in denial that the reason I felt sick, it can't be the dope. It's not the drugs. The drugs never did anything to me, right? That's the fucking vicious cycle, man, that denial. Anyway, that's crazy right there. I'm just kind of like tripping on that right at this moment. So he was like, well, whatever you do, he was like, he take this. He said, whatever, he said, either you can just, he said, it's not going to make you feel that much. It's not going to make you feel good because it's nowhere near the amount that you're taking. He said, but it'll make you feel not as bad for a couple hours until you can get what you're looking for. And he said, whatever you do, he said, either snort it or just, he said, I suggest you just put it under your tongue until it dissolves. That'll hit you immediately, and it'll be the body effect that your body's looking for. So I get home and I was like, damn, I got fucking the first time ever in my life. I was probably about 18, 19, something like that. 19, 20 maybe. I was like, for the first time ever in my life, no, maybe 20, 21. First time ever in my life, I had a piece of heroin in my hand. And I was like, damn, like I remember OGs used to look cool as fuck like this, you know what I mean? Like one eye up, one eye low, that whole like older people, you know what I mean? Like everybody that like I never knew, I never thought, I just never like put 2 and 2 together. Never thought it would be me. Then I was like, fuck it. Like I got this right here in my hand. Like, I'm not about to play with this shit. First of all, how the fuck am I gonna snort some tar, right? Because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And I was like, put this under my tongue? Like, I don't know about all that. Like, to me, what makes sense is to put this shit in my arm. Like, that's what you do with this stuff. And person I was living with happened to be a diabetic. And I took one of the syringes and I filled it up and I hit the heroin for the first time. Damn, this is a long ass drawn out story that I didn't plan on going into this deep. But my whole point is, a few years of that cycle of being sick, being well, being sick, being well, being sick, waking up at 5:30 in the morning to go down, you know, onto the street to look for some, right? Because that is a cold ass hike right there. Sick on a bicycle, not sure whether or not you're gonna score. That's a cold ass psychological right there, for real. And then once you do, it's just like, finally, I like wrapped in that warm blanket, you know what I mean? Like finally cuddled up again, you know what I'm saying? Like, So after a while, man, I got strung out real bad and ended up overdosing. I ended up overdosing one night, not on heroin, on something else. And the next day, my family came and was like, check this out. You got to do something about what you do. Like, this has got to change. This has got to stop. And found out that day that my sister had passed. My sister died of an overdose that same day. This is not at all where I'm trying to go. So I was addicted to heroin, painkillers and everything, and ended up in a program and on methadone. I ended up on methadone. It was supposed to be a methadone detox, which it was, but I got down low enough to a point, and then wasn't ready to stop. Like, I just wasn't ready to stop. So not relapse. I stopped getting my dose and I started getting high again. Relapsed. Makes it seem like it wasn't my choice. I just wasn't ready to get clean yet. And so I went in year or two later and got on another detox. Failed that detox again because I really wasn't ready to stop using. And then kept using for a while, and finally got onto a maintenance slot. Maintenance means, detox means they give you a certain amount in the beginning, and every day they take you down. Like say they give you 150 milligrams or 120 milligrams every day, or every couple days they take you down a couple milligrams to detox you slowly, so that you don't like go through the serious effects of the withdrawal. I was on heavy doses of opiates and opioids, and so when I was say 25 or something like that, I was on maintenance. 26 maybe, I was on maintenance methadone. In other words, I had to go every day to the clinic to get a dose of methadone that would make it so that I don't get sick. And when I got on this maintenance, it was like cool. Like I never have to get sick ever in my life. I had been in my using, I had been to county jail countless times, like literally I don't know how many times, countless times, and kicked opiates in jail, and that shit is not fucking pretty. At the same time, you don't really have a choice, so you sit through that shit, you get through that shit, and then you feel better after some days. And but now that I'm on this maintenance, I was like, cool. I ended up relapsing on something else, like some coke, and realized that being on methadone made it so that I didn't have to detox. Like I didn't have to come down. Like the come down on coke was nothing. I was able to go to sleep and everything. So basically, what happened was, because I wasn't ready, I started. It's not where I'm going with this. I started using on top of my dosing. 10 years later, in the same cycle, dosing, getting high, dosing, getting high, dosing, getting high. 10 years down the line, and I stopped getting high. I was just dosing and smoking weed, medicating at that point. It was all medicating at that point, but I was on heavy doses of methadone. I was buying extra methadone from people because I got to the highest limit that they would give me at the clinic, and I was buying 1 and 2, at least one full extra dose a day, which was basically doubling the highest dose that they can give you at the clinic, and sometimes more than that. One day I looked in the mirror, I took a shower, I got out of the shower and I looked in the mirror and I was like, damn, I barely even recognized myself. Like straight up, I barely fucking recognized myself. I was hella bloated, like my features looked hella soft, my eyes looked, I don't know, like beady, like narrow looking, like I didn't have, like when I looked in through my eyes, I couldn't see further than what was right in front of me. There was no depth, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying this is going to happen to everybody and anybody. This is what happened to me. There was no depth when I looked into my eyes. So that day, this was in March, that day I went down to the clinic to dose, and I told the counselor there, I said, check this out. I want a detox. She was like, what, really? Okay, if you say so. You're on this many milligrams, all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I want to get off by my birthday. And this was in March. No, this was in February. Yeah, it was in February. She says, okay, well, when's your birthday? I say, May 2nd. She goes, okay, so you want to get off May 2nd next year? And I was like, no, I want to get off May 2nd this year. She's like, you can't do that. That's really not, it's not possible. And I said, yeah. I said, am I in control of how much I dose, or is the doctor and you in control of how much I dose? She said, well, actually, you're in control of how much you dose. I said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I already did the math. And I told her I want to go down 5 milligrams a day until I get off this shit, period, point blank. And she was like, I don't suggest it, but okay, we'll go along with it. And I did it. I went down 5 milligrams a day for a week or so, 2 weeks or so, and then I would stop for a day or two to let my body catch up and then keep going. And I pushed that shit. I got all the way down to like 2 milligrams. Like I even got from 5, I went down to 3 3 at a time, and then, you know, sometimes 2. And it just kind of like depended on my psychological part of it, because I was already in the sickness. I was already like living in a state of like perpetual dope sick for a few months. I knew it was going to be too much. Like it would have been too much for me to go cold turkey off 160 milligrams of methadone. It would have been, if I had to, it would have been too much, and I most likely would have ended up using, or just being like, forget it, I quit. You know what I'm saying? So I did what I had to do for myself, and for myself to heal. So on my birthday, the day before my birthday, I took my last dose. The day before my birthday, May 1st, I took my last dose, and I spent my whole birthday dope sick. I had to wait 3 days. I waited that 3 days, and then I went to a different clinic, and I got a prescription for Suboxone, which is just another harm reduction medication. And I used the Suboxone to taper off of the methadone, because I thought 3 milligrams, this is nothing. Shit, that was the hardest kick, one of the hardest kicks besides Xanax I ever had. So I got on the Suboxone. I took a week's prescription, and instead of taking the whole thing, I just sliced little pieces of it, and I only took as much as my body required me to take. I didn't follow the prescription. I don't suggest anybody do this, but this is how it worked for me. I didn't follow the prescription. I took about a week's worth of it, and I stretched that week's worth of it for about 5.5, 6 weeks. So I took my last dose of methadone on May 1st, and by June 4th, I'll say, June 4th or 5th, I wasn't dosing anymore. I wasn't taking Suboxone. I had been off methadone for about a month, and by the time I got off Suboxone, it was like one sweaty night, and I was good. Like, it was over. I would end up going like every other day, dosing that little teeny pieces of it every other day. And 5 years later to that date, I was crazy part is I was walking down the street with my dog, and I just came off, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't clean since then. This was when I was 33 years old. I still had a lot of issues that I haven't even like explored yet, or I hadn't even like realized yet. A lot of like core issues that I hadn't dealt with. I didn't deal with anything when I was on methadone. I was still getting high, period. I wasn't in recovery, none of that shit. I went to meetings here and there. I went to meetings every once in a while, but I wasn't in recovery. So I hadn't dealt with anything, not much. And so 5 years to the date of me taking, so I was walking my dog, right? And there's this yard with these flowers. I didn't realize what they were. Like, I really didn't realize what they were until the first one opened. The first one opened on my birthday, May 2nd. It was this big, giant, beautiful pink flower. It stood about eye level to me, about right at my chin level, really tall. And it was a poppy, which of course, where opium comes from, where heroin comes from, where morphine comes from. And over the years, I didn't know what the plant was until, like, it's hard to explain. Over the years, I would go around looking for poppies, and I would slice them, and I would take them, and I would boil them down, and I would make tea, and I would make opium and all this other stuff. But this time, when that flower opened, it was the first time I realized that this flower is not here to be abused. This flower is here to provide medicine. That's what the relationship between people, and probably animals too, but people and poppies are. It's a medicinal relationship. It's not a relationship to be abused. I gotta say that I have to say this right now. I believe that the profit motive is what created the industry of drug abuse. The profit motive is what created the industry of drug abuse. Of course, drugs have been around, but when when you found out that you can enslave somebody by giving them these medications that are giving them these substances that are supposed to be medications, like cocaine used to be a medication too. You can enslave people by giving them the medications and keep them hooked, and then make them do what you want to do, right? Which meant like basically slavery, which happened all over the world in different places in different ways throughout history. And it became a profitable thing for a small amount of people, for the people who are reaping the benefits of the labor anyway. So that flower opened on my birthday. I took it as a gift from the universe that I was in the right place at the right time. I had been in recovery at that point, again, actually in recovery for about 3 months, and 3 or 4 months, about 3 months at that point. And I took it as a gift from the universe. A few months later, a few days later, I keep walking by, and every day there's more poppies opening. And it was just like a beautiful explosion. Like the way poppies grow is they lean on each other. They grow in a patch. They lean on each other to support each other in the elements, in the wind, and they try and grow as tall as they can to reach the sun, to get as much energy as they can, to get as big as they can, actually to provide as much medicine as they can. That's what the relationship is. That's what the relationship in the universe is. Days go by, I'm taking pictures of the whole thing, and then I look down as I'm passing. I look down next to the gutter, next to the rain grate, the grate over the rain drain, and I see these two little plants, and I recognize that they look like they were poppies in the yard that the poppies were growing in this patch. So they root down as deep as they can root, as tall as they can get. Like, they can't get very tall if their roots can't get deep. So if you have shallow roots, you're not going to get you're not going to get a tall plant. And that's like that with pretty much any plants. They have a tap root that goes down as deep as possible, and then they branch out and get as wide as possible to create strength. I've seen these little plants, and they had been rooted. So in the yard, there's a picket fence around it. It's really small. It's not a big yard. It's a really small fence, about 7 by 7 actually. Pretty interesting. It's 7 by 7. San Francisco, 7 miles by 7 miles. This was 7 feet by 7 feet. So the poppies that were within the fence, grew strong and tall and big bright flowers. And then there were some that leaned out through the cracks of the in between the slots of the fence. So they were leaning out onto the sidewalk, and what happened was they leaned over to the side. Their leaves started to brown. They weren't standing up tall. They had no support. They were leaning out. They were on the sidewalk, you know what I'm saying? And then there was these two little poppies that the seeds from last year blew across the sidewalk, off the curb into the gutter, and became gutter poppies. I was like, when I first saw them, I was like, shit, good luck with that. I don't think they just look like little weeds, and I figured there's no chance, because they're not getting any water. It's summertime. It's not going to happen. Like, I don't think you're going to make it. And that's kind of how, it's like an immediate reaction was, it's a lost cause, which is sad. You know what I mean? It's a sad mind state that people are in sometimes, that I was in. Even though I was in recovery, I was still in a defeated mind state, because it was still early recovery, and I hadn't felt empowered from the program yet. I haven't felt empowered from learning a new way of life. I was like, damn, these little poppies, like, kind of a lost cause. And that's how people look at people on the street, man. People look at people on the street like it's a lost cause. There's nothing you can do about it. And then these little poppies had one of them ended up not making it. The other one actually looked like it was surviving, just barely surviving. Leaves were all crinkled around the edges, and it was like a little scraggly little weed, but it had a little flower bud on it, like a little bulb that would have been a flower, that would be a flower someday. And so I was walking by, I was like, damn, you might actually make it. It's like, damn. So that gave me some hope. And this took place probably sometime in June, like a month after my birthday. I was like, it gave me some hope. You know what I mean? Like, damn, maybe there is a chance. So it gave me hope for myself. then maybe there is a chance that I can get out of, or at least grow within this, within the environment and within the surroundings that I exist in, that I can thrive. One day I went out there and it was all slouched over. It was like this. It was like this. It looked hella sad. It looked just like that too. It was all slouched over, and it was dehydrated. It started to die, and it was funny because there was an empty package of Cools or something. No, an empty package of Camel cigarettes and like a plastic. The wrapper from the plastic was like in the gutter area, like, and it was, mind you, the plant started to grow in these decaying leaves around that had accumulated and gathered around the gutter. So that's all it had, was this decaying environment, and which is what happened in the inner cities when crack hit. Like, the communities began to a state of decay, a state of like disappearance, where there was community and vibrance. That started to wither away. And during the war on drugs, which is just basically an assault on poverty, on poverty-stricken communities. That's what it was. The war on drugs was literally an assault on lower income communities, because that's where it was targeted, until it spread into the fucking suburbs, and that's when they were like, oh, we better do something about it, right? Everybody knows the story. So anyway, I identified with that poppy because I came up in that. Excuse me. I watched that. I experienced that firsthand. I was one of the kids caught in the crossfire, for real. And that's what we say in meetings. We say a prayer for the addict who's gonna. We say a prayer for the addict who's gonna take their first hit tonight. We say a prayer for an addict who's gonna take their last hit tonight. And we say a prayer for the addict who's not going to make it. And we say a prayer for the kids caught in the crossfire. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we do. And then we try and pray people into the rooms. I'm one of the addicts that got prayed into those rooms. This is emotional because it's serious. Anyway, damn. Did not plan on all this. I swear to God, I didn't plan on all this. I was trying to give you a little simple short story. A little bit of experience, but this is going a lot deeper. So I grew up in that environment. I was one of the kids caught in a crossfire, and when I saw that little poppy that was losing its chance at a future, losing its chance at the ability to blossom, I felt it. Like, I identified with that gutter poppy. I was like, I know how you feel. Like, I know how it feels to feel dehydrated and feel lonely and unloved and stepped over and looked over, ignored. I know what that feeling is like. Neglected, right? And I'm not just saying neglected only by a parent or only by this, but I just mean in general. Like, someone who's struggling, generally speaking, is neglected within a society. This is what I'm talking about. That we don't have protocol, and we don't have resources already. Well, we do. We're beginning to, little bits here and there with harm reduction in certain cities, ways and means for people to grow out of, to be liberated from these conditions. We just think it is the way it is, and it's always going to be that way, right? But drug addiction is a new the epidemic of drug addiction is relatively new to humanity. There's always been alcohol. We found out how to make alcohol. We know about poppies. We know about chewing coca leaves. But as an epidemic, it's new. It's relatively new, and it's new in partnership with the profit motive for production. That's two things that have gone hand in hand. The epidemic of drug epidemics and the profit motive have gone hand in hand. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying like It's all society's fault that people choose to use, but the conditions being determines consciousness. The conditions of one's being, how you are, how you're living, determines your mental state of mind. And when you feel powerless and you feel neglected and you feel desperate and hopeless, like this little Poppy was, like I felt, generally speaking, what happens is you turn it on oneself. You turn that pain inward on yourself, and it ends up affecting the people around you and the society as a whole, community and society as a whole. That's what happens with drug addiction. So I was this little Poppy, man. I was this little Poppy, and I was like, fuck. I happened to take my dog. I was like, damn, you're not gonna. First, I was like, damn, I feel you. Like, and at that point, I remembered the last time before this got into recovery. The last time I was in an alley. I had a needle that had coagulated blood in it. I don't even know if there was any more dope in there. The needle was bent. It was swiveling around. It was almost broken. It would have, if I was able to, it might have broken off in my arm. The needle itself might have broken off in my arm. I was fucked up. I had blood leaking out of my arms because I couldn't hit because I was dehydrated. Like I couldn't hit a vein because I was dehydrated. My veins had collapsed because I was out for so long, using for so long, without eating, without drinking, without pissing. I smelled like pissy concrete. And I was sitting in the alley, and I was just like, damn, I just want somebody that knows me to drive by and say, Johnny, I love you. Here's some water. Like, here's some water. Let's go get something to eat. Let's get out of here. And I swore to God, I prayed to God at that moment, which especially until recently, I have not been a very praying person, just because I didn't grow up that way. I prayed to God. I said, God, please send somebody to show me some kind of compassion and take me out of the situation. I promise I'll throw this needle away. I'll break this pipe. And, with a needle in my arm and a crack pipe in my mouth, I was making these prayers. You see what I'm saying? And I realized in that moment that the cops couldn't do anything about it. They don't want to. Who the fuck wants to touch somebody? You know what I mean? It's not causing anyone any harm. Like, I'm not breaking any laws. Really, using in public is a public safety hazard. It's not a crime, which it shouldn't be. It should be treated as a medical emergency. And someone can always refuse. Someone needs to seek medical emergency. You need to seek care sometimes. And that's the gray area right there. It's like you need to be able, the person needs to be receptive to the care. Anyway, the cops couldn't do nothing about it. The neighbors in the neighborhood couldn't. I'm just down in the alley downtown somewhere. Nobody could do anything about it. And I realized in that moment, I'm the only one, at this point, I'm the only one that can get up off of this curb, out of this gutter. I was sitting on the curb, basically right like how that Poppy was. I got up and I took myself out of the alley, and I found a detox, and I got into detox and began my stint at actual recovery, not just abstinence, but actual recovery. So when I saw that Poppy, that's what it brought me to that moment. Like, I know how you feel. And I realized, so I said, damn, like it's fucked up, because I was the only one that could show me that kind of love. Nobody else could do it for me. But this Poppy can't get up from this curb, right? This Poppy can't unroot and walk itself back over to the support of its patch. It's not possible. Like, a Poppy doesn't uproot and walk across the sidewalk back to its home, right? Back to where it came from. It doesn't work that way. People may be able to do that, and whether you accept it or not, who knows? But I'm saying people may be able to do that, but poppies can't. Plants can't get up and walk away. So I was walking the dog. I took my dog up to the hill, and like really grateful that I actually still have my dog, because during my relapse, when I was out in the streets using, my family could have got rid of my dog, and I wouldn't have had him. So I was like really grateful that didn't happen. And I was like, man, I love him. I walked around the hill. It was hot outside, dry, no rain, nothing. And I walked over to the water fountain because I was thirsty, and I'm drinking water, and I'm feeding the dog water, just being like, damn, I'm so grateful I still have this dog. I love this dog. And that's when it clicked. I was like, I love the dog. The dog's thirsty. I'm thirsty. I'm feeding the dog water. All I wanted was some love when I was in that alley, when I felt like that Poppy does right now. And that's what the poppy needs. The poppy needs some water. So I filled my mouth up with water and I carried it down a couple blocks and I fed the poppy some water the next day. And I didn't expect the poppy to respond to it. I just didn't know whether that was going to be enough. The next day when I walked by, the poppy was standing up tall. It was still shriveled around the edges, but it wasn't slumped over like this anymore. It was standing up tall, like I got a new breath of life, like a new rejuvenated refreshness of water. You know what I'm saying? Like water puts out fire. Imagine that. Water puts out fire. So a couple days go by, same thing, and walking the dog, I'm looking at the little poppy getting stronger, looking taller, the flower buds getting bigger and getting a little more like plump looking, like it might flower, like it might blossom, it might bloom. And that day I happened to be walking the dog and he dropped an empty water bottle. Swear to God on everything I love. He came over and dropped an empty water bottle at my feet. One of those Crystal Geyser seltzer water bottles, the small ones. So I filled the water bottle up. I said, well, I guess I know what I'm doing today. I filled the water bottle up and I took it down to the poppy, and me and Buddy both fed the poppy some water. And I actually took a picture of while I was feeding the water. Buddy happened to be licking I was feeding the poppy and Buddy some water at the same time. He was drinking the water as I was pouring it out, as it was going on the poppy. And that was, I think, on a Friday. And when the Monday came around, I came around the corner and that little flower, it blossomed, it bloomed. And it was a small flower, about 6 or 8 inches tall. And I could see it from a half a block or a block away. And it looked like the biggest, brightest thing I had ever seen. It was like a reflection of all the energy. You see what I'm saying? It was a reflection of not only the sun's energy, but all the energy that I experienced, all the desperation and pain that was the catalyst to for me, like the dialectic, all the desperation and pain and misery that turned into the necessity of love, and the necessity to look for love, to seek love, to find love, to look for love within self and find love and treat myself with love and treat the pain with love. That's the dialectic. That's the same dialectic that revolutions are made of. Right there. Like the desperation becomes, the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. That's when things change. So when the pain of change, you see what I'm saying? The pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then that's when things change. Society, when the cost outweighs the benefit, it's obsolete. Like if it costs more if it costs more in the environment, if it costs more emotionally, if it costs more physically, if it costs more and it doesn't give back what it's taking, it's obsolete. This is capitalism. Capitalism is taking more than it's giving back. So it's obsolete. It's not working anymore. And we've been in this condition for so long that we become used to it. We don't realize that it doesn't have to be this way. It is supposed to be this way because it is, but it doesn't have to be this way. It was the way it was for over 400 years during the era of slavery. And people thought, well, this is just the way it is. It's always going to be this way, until the pain of staying the same became bigger than the pain of change. That's when things started to change. Until the cost outweighed the benefit, it was time to change. Like it stayed the same until then, till the cost outweighed the benefit, till the pain of staying the same was greater than the pain of change. That's when things are going to change. So some of us have already won the revolution, and and we're just trying to get everybody else to win the revolution too. Because the more people to win the revolution, the easier that it will become to win. It's just that simple. And it's going to take, I just hope it doesn't take something drastic. I just hope there's just something that goes, you know what? Like I woke up when I got off methadone that day. Nothing drastic happened. I was chill. I was cool. I was growing my weed. I was smoking weed all day. I was hustling. I was selling weed. I was cool. Like everything was cool. But I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I was like, wait a minute. I don't gotta live like this. I don't have to keep putting myself through this same fucking drama, through the same fucking pain. I don't have to keep doing this to myself. We don't have to keep doing this to ourselves either. I don't know how. Like, I don't know how besides like a realization or organizing the masses, organizing the working class, to realize that that we are the ones that have the control of the means of production, and we have the ability to change the way things are distributed. It's just that basic. Like, it sounds simple, sounds complicated and simple, but it's simple. We are the ones that control the means of production, and we have the ability to change how things are distributed. Period. Working people do. Working people. The general public can assist that. The general public assists it, and what happens to the general public? Everybody, and I'm talking about around the world, everybody's standard of living rises, and the amount of accumulated wasteful wealth, all those numbers in the bank, fuck it, let them stay the same, because it's not doing them any good. It's not doing us any good. Let's just change the way things are, right? It sounds easy, and I know it's a lot more complicated than I'm making it sound, but that poppy, man, that gutter poppy was one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever been gifted with in the present. You know what I mean? That the present ever gave to me, and the only thing I can do is to share this whole thing with anybody and everybody. This is a long ass story, but it's a long ass 40 minutes to listen to. But I'm about to put this on YouTube and see if anybody wants to hear this, and if anybody, you know what I mean. If not, I know I'm doing my part. I'm doing what I can. Like, I'm only one person. Some of us have already won a revolution. We're just trying to get the rest of us to win too. The more people who win a revolution, the easier it'll become to win. So that gutter poppy, man, that gutter poppy was just like the most beautiful little flower. Poppies only live once. They're not the same plant that, like a tree, right? Like an apple tree or a orange orchard, grows fruit throughout the year, and then it drops the leaves, and then it starts over again. That's not how poppies go. Poppies have one chance. The one seed becomes a plant, and when that plant grows, the flower produces more seeds that drop into the earth, and that's how the rotation of poppies go. They're annuals. They die every year, and they keep going. Like, and so like, similar to people, man, we only have this one. The consciousness we have is only this one of this one experience. We don't know what happened before. Like, we're not necessarily conscious of what happened. Most people are not necessarily conscious of what happened before we were born in this lifetime, and most people are not necessarily conscious of what will happen after our body stops working for us, after our body dies. But like, I have hope. You know what I mean? I have hope that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, meets the eyes. I think, like, the eye that we have up here is the one that holds all the secrets of the universe, like genetic memory. You know what I mean? Like, we have these memories within us. We don't have to only identify with the pain of genetic memory. We can also identify with what empowered humanity to evolve over millions of years. And it wasn't sure in the fuck wasn't a profit motive. Definitely wasn't the profit motive. The profit motive got us pretty far within technology in the last 300-400 years. We came a long way technologically, but we're still not that much more advanced as human within the last 200 or 300 years. We're basically the same, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, we might be, seems to be like the machines are doing a lot more thinking than we are. And we are depending a lot more on these, what I'm holding in my hand right now, to guide us through life, than actually experiencing what's around in the universe and taking note on that. So I just hope one day we collectively wake up and look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, this ain't working anymore. Like, the pain is staying the same. is too great. Let's attempt the pain of change. And that's for me, that's where recovery comes in. That's where, like it sounds repetitive and corny, but that's where the 12-step program comes in. For me, it's Narcotics Anonymous. For me, I can identify with the language of Narcotics Anonymous. It's a lot more spiritually based and a lot less religiously based. It's a lot more open-minded than many of the other programs that I've experienced, and it's a lot more accepting of no matter who you are, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your spirituality or happen to be agnostic or atheist. Doesn't matter. The practical applications of the principles of the program is what empowers people to change. And when I say practical applications of principles, spiritual principles, the spiritual principles are the same for every religion. Things like forgiveness, acceptance, compassion. These are principles to stand on. Compassion, acceptance, unity happens to be the primary principle. I guess I'm gonna go into this a little bit deeper. One of the reasons that we don't know about this, one of the reasons that we feel this void, that people seek things outside of themselves to fill a void within, is because we don't have knowledge or understanding of what I'm about to say right now. And unity is the primary principle for humanity, as well as the primary purpose of humanity is unity. I'll tell you the primary principle for humanity is that it's the first, primary being the first principle we experience, which is being in unity with another human when we're in gestation with our mother. So when we're in gestation with our mother, we're literally linked. We're in unity with another human being physically. Everything that goes into us comes through another human. And that's how we develop. And then we're born, and that unity, that physical unity is separated. That actual as one, the as one part of it is interrupted. I don't even want to say broken, because that makes it seem like it doesn't work. It's interrupted. And then we are dependent on our parents. Then we're dependent on our community to nurture us. But our parents, like their parents and like their parents, are not necessarily equipped with what it takes. The masses, for sure, are not equipped with what it takes to nurture in an empowering way. We're given things like religion to make an excuse for why we're bad people. You're not a bad person. You're not born a bad person. You just don't understand that the reason you feel this sense of loss or the sense of not being whole is because it's just part of the human experience. When you break that, when that unity is disconnected, that's all I'll say. Disconnected is better than interrupted. It's disconnected and interrupted, because that unity, you can find it again in community, in family. You can find that unity, but it has to be greater than, when I say greater, it has to be bigger than within just family. It has to be your family connected to community. Like, that's where the real nurturing comes in. So having the sense of loss or the sense of void, when that connection is disconnected, when the unity is disconnected, then we're at a sense of loss. And we learn that all we need to do is cry to get what we want, right? And that's kind of like, that's the ego, the id, the little child inside reaching out, shouting out, yelling out for its people, its other people who are raising it, to nurture it, to provide food, to provide warmth, to provide love, to provide love. And then we're left up to, we only get, once we're old enough, we go into these schools that are only allowed to do certain amount of nurturing, like only allowed to teach certain things. And then we're left up to our parents, who have to work and probably work 8 hours, sometimes more. And we're left up to like a 4 to 6 hour window in the evening that we spend with the people who are supposed to be, who could be nurturing us. So we're left up to like find out deductive reasoning to figure things out for our own. And what happens is we end up going, okay, This makes me feel good, I'm going to do this. This makes me feel good, I'm going to do this. This makes me feel good, I'm going to do this. And then that's where that conditioned in a mind state of self-will, which American tells you self-will. You have to be strong-willed in order to survive, in order to make it. You got to step over people. You got to ignore what other people need and just go for your own wants. This is just perpetuating that same cycle of when that disconnection happened. We depend on each other. Everything and everyone is connected. Everything is connected. It may not feel physical that I can't reach out and touch the leaves on that tree over there or touch the bark on that tree over there. But there's molecules in the air that connect me to that tree right now. There's molecules in the air that connect it. So everything is connected, and everything and everyone depends on everything and everyone else in some form or fashion or another. But we're not taught to nurture that. We're taught to only fight for our own and take from everyone else. And this is the lesson we learn through patriarchy. This is a lesson we learn through capitalism. This is a lesson we learn from our government. Our government goes all around the world, taking what it wants for its own use, and it's not even for the people. It's for a minority of people, which are the capitalists. It's for the ruling class of society to accumulate more wealth than could ever be spent. So it's like it's degrading. It's the degradation on the planet is greater than the benefit that the system gives back. You see what I'm saying? It's my understanding. My understanding. The God of my understanding told me straight up that the true nature of humanity is to live in harmony with the universe, live in harmony with the planet, take care of and nurture the planet, and then collectively, and then benefit from the abundance that is provided. For example, you got a farm. This is what I mean by collectively nurture the earth and benefit off of the abundance. You got a farm that say it takes 25 or 50 people to operate the farm. Those 25 and 50 people that operate a farm, for example, of kale, can feed 2,000 people kale. You see what I'm saying? A collective effort always produces an abundance. So this is what it is. This is how you nurture the planet and survive and share in the abundance that the planet gives. But we have to do it together. Kam means together. Uni is the unit or measurement of the number one, and ism is the belief system, practice, or theory of. So communism is the word literally means the belief system, practice, or theory of living together as one. That's what the word communism actually means. And capitalism has made living together as one the enemy. Imagine that. I'm just saying we can change this shit, man. I'm just really saying we can change this shit. When addicts get together in a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, everyone has an equal say. Everyone has an equal vote. No one is bigger than the other. No one is more important than the other. As a matter of fact, the most important person in the room is the person with the least amount of clean time. Because that's where the effort needs to be focused. The effort needs to be focused where the love and nurturing is needed most. So that's how it works. So the most important person in the room is the newcomer, the person with the least amount of time, people with the least amount of time, people within their first 30 days of recovery. That's where the most nurturing is needed. Everyone else is already like beginning a practice of changing one's attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, and changing one's way of life. So you focus energy on where it's needed most first. That's what we need to do in society. We need to focus the energy and resources, and maybe not live so gluttonous for a little while until we bring everyone up to a certain standard of living, everyone in the world. And there's enough space. For example, there's enough space there's enough farmland in America, in the United States, to produce food for people, for the amount of people all over the world. So there's enough here. There's just here. So if we did that all over the place and shared our goods, shared our resources, then everyone would live abundantly. But we throw away just about as much as we consume, because it doesn't give us a profit. It doesn't give it a profit to give it away. So this is where the profit motive itself is the fundamental problem with capitalist society. It's the profit motive. It's creating more damage. It's creating more pain and grief than it is providing for. It's actually creating more pain and grief for the masses, and providing wasteful amounts of wealth for a tiny group of people of the world. That's what this is doing. That's like, for example, during the monarchies, the kings and queens would own the property, own the land. People keep walking around my car. It's funny. Same people. It's all right. Maybe they're listening. The monarchies would have farms, right? They own the land, and they would make the peasants work the farms, and then they would only give the peasants just enough to survive, and then hoard the rest, and maybe trade it out for jewels and gold, or actually hoard it and let it go rotten. Like, that's what they would do. They would hoard it and let it go rotten, because they need the people starving. They need the people starving to force them to work. And that's kind of like addiction, and even not only addiction, but consumerism. They need the people wanting more, right, in order to get us to produce more. And then what we do is we get paid, and then we end up getting paid a fraction of what we're worth, and then end up giving that whole paycheck over back to the capitalist, back to the ruling class of society, so that we can consume the goods that we ourselves made. So we're paying double, triple for it. You know what I'm saying? We created the fucking goods. We are the farmers that make it. Like, we're the construction workers that make it. We're the people who the logistics, who get it from point A to point B. We get paid a fraction of what we're worth, and then we have to turn around and give that back for what we produced. It's like a vicious cycle of addiction. I know I keep saying the same thing over and over again, and I'm going on an hour right now, but you know what? Sometimes you need to get stuff off your chest, and sometimes there's no one there to listen. And at those times, I thank the God of my understanding for the ability to freely give to me, give back what was given to me. And that's this information. Like, I'll say freely, but it wasn't free. It just, all it costed was my time and my experience. And if I can share something that can help somebody not have to go through as much of a negative experience that I went through, then I'm happy with that. This dude keeps walking around in circles in my car. It's hella funny. Whatever. Anyway, if nobody told you they love you, I hope you take this message as an act of love, because that's where it came from. Like, we can do this together. Together we can heal. Together we can grow. Oh, that's what I was saying. Narcotics Anonymous. Everybody does it together. Like, nobody's more important than the other person. Everyone has an equal vote in how everything happens. You have the ability to come in and vote on how everything's happening. For example, there's a core group of people who are trusted servants. They don't govern. We're trusted servants who make small decisions that affect a specific group. If you're part of that specific meeting, that part of that specific group, if you go to that group and you don't like the way things are, you're welcome to sit in on the business meeting, have your ideas heard, and vote it, make suggestions, and make motions to vote to make it different. Like, this is democracy. This is what democracy really, that's what democracy really is. Everyone has the right to say what they like and what they don't like, why they like it, why they don't like it, and move collectively on those choices that are voted for. And we don't get that. We have to vote for people. We have to vote for people that are supposed to represent us, but they actually don't represent the people. They actually represent the interest of business. So this is not like a full-on, it's not full-on democracy. It's not. It's a figment of democracy. And I don't mean to be drastic right now, but we can do better, man. Like, we can do better. We overcame the worst Holocaust in human history, which was this transatlantic slave trade from Africa to the United States. We overcame that. We're growing out of that. You know what I mean? Society grew out. The American society, you know, grew out of that. Western society grew out of that. There may be still happening around the world in places, and by changing the way that goods are produced and distributed, could completely change the whole direction that humanity is taking, from a tailspin it could take us from a tailspin, like a tailspin in a downward spiral, into leading humanity, leading itself into the future of like a sustainable and productive and cohesive and harmonious way of life, living together as one. Part of that is like coming to the realization that being in denial that this is the best that we'll ever get. Like, you have to come to the realization that we can do better. Peace and power to the people.